What is good, sports fans? Hey, if it's your first time here or your 500th time here, make sure you subscribe, like, and leave us a comment. I'm Eric, and this is Coach Dan with Trench Mafia, and we're here with another banger from Clueless Sports Dad podcast. Welcome in, Dan.
What's up, Eric?
So today we're going to talk about NFL run games. We're going to break down the difference between zone, power, and some of the other schemes that teams are running in the NFL. And Dan, you're here to help us break that down.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I guess my first question for you is, Dan, please explain to the clueless sports fans out there, the difference in run schemes that are ran in the NFL, like especially zone versus power.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be your two basic concepts. Zone, you're blocking more of a space than a person, whereas power is going to be more vertical. It's more people moving. That's what you're going to call your gap schemes, your counter, your power, those types of things. So it's just kind of a difference of philosophy of trying to block up space to an edge, or are you just trying to get downhill and maul people?
So is there really a difference? Because, there's always talk about inside zone versus outside zone. And the reason we're really breaking this down right now is because my favorite team, the Raiders, they're going to a new scheme this year coming up with Klint Kubiak running an outside zone scheme. So do you implement outside or inside zone with outside zone and power? Like, how does that all kind of come together especially in the NFL, as they start to run these kind of offenses?
Yeah, I mean, no one is running just zone concepts or just power concepts. There's going to be, for the most part, a pretty good split of it. Now, it all depends on what is going to be your primary and what is going to be your complementary run. A lot of the NFL teams now have gone to zone schemes, particularly wide zone. And the reason for that is they want to stretch things laterally. Interior defensive linemen have gotten so good. They're so fast. They're so powerful that you want to stretch things to push runs to the edge of the box, because when you have lateral flow, you're going to get natural run lanes from linebackers over pursuing or under pursuing, linemen getting caught up, to make it so you're not having to just move people for a run to be successful. So that's why teams are going to do that, is because it creates more natural run lanes.
Okay, so on top of that, because some of us are clueless here, and when I coached linebackers, we called ourselves the kings of chaos. And what we would like to do, especially on run plays, is we want to cause as much chaos in the backfield as possible, or at the line of scrimmage at least. So if you had a guard pulling, you would really love to get in there and hit him almost like blindsiding and really just drop him and cause a huge mess in the backfield after the handoff. So the running back gets the ball and he's, like, oh, where am I going? Where's the lane? Like, looking for stuff like that. So when you have a guy like a demon guy like Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, these defensive edge guys, and you're trying to run an outside zone and they're just splitting through defenders, they're just manhandling guys out there. How does that help, or does that change the way you really block those type of guys?
For sure. When you're talking about generational talents, you need to have a very specific game plan. But the nice thing about your wide zone versus a gap scheme is that you can game plan it where, hey, this guy is a big outside pressure rusher, so we're just going to try to wall him off and create a cutback to the inside. And with that flow from your zones, it could hit anywhere from front side A gap to outside D gap. It's not as specific on where the run is going versus, say, a counter or a power where it's designed to go in one spot. And if you have an edge player, like for instance, you said the DNs, who are some of the best players in the game, like if you can't get a good kick on that guy on counter, the play is ruined. Whereas on wide zone, if you can get a hat to him, let him do what he wants to do. If he wants to go outside, you run him outside and you cut off inside. If he wants to cross your face, then seal him inside and hit the ball outside. So it just creates a lot more opportunity for backs to make plays. And that's why I think the Raiders bringing in Kubiak makes a lot of sense, beyond, how great of a coach we all think he can be and all of that. But when you have a back who's got the vision and the patience of an Ashton Jeanty, he can really excel in that scheme because he can see where the lanes are going to be created. So wide zone is probably the most popular play in the league right now, but in order for it to really be your primary and your calling card, you need to have a back who understands it and can hit it. And that's something the Raiders do have right now. So I'm excited to see what they do with this new scheme and the personnel that they have in-house already.
So you mentioned walling off a defender, like a defensive end, like those top premier guys like I was talking about. Are you doing that with your tackles? Are you doing with that with a guard, like pulling per se? Like how does that all work on offensive line as far as scheme and play calling and stuff like that goes? Or is it different by different teams?
Yeah, it's going to come down to different teams. You know, if you have one of those premier pass rushers, it might be something where you're trying to get to him with the tackle, of course, but you might be trying to get a guard in there to help as well before he climbs to a second level, because all of these plays are designed with personnel where you're accounting for front side linebackers as well. So it may be something where we're going to be a little late to the party getting to the second level, but that's okay because the primary rule of playing offensive line and coaching offensive line is take care of the first level first. So if they have a monster, then we need to make sure he's not blowing things up, because it doesn't matter if we get to a second level defender if a first level is going to ruin the play anyways. So there is some game planning that goes into that of sticking not necessarily a double team, but hanging on your help a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about the personnel, and that was getting into my next question with Klint Kubiak coming over and changing the culture especially as far as the run game goes and the scheme and stuff like that. And can you coach this kind of scheme to any lineman, or is personnel a huge key? Like you need to change out offensive linemen and stuff like that. What is your thoughts on that?
Can you coach it to anyone? Sure. Is it going to be as productive as you want it to be? No. Like if you're running wide zone, you need guys who are athletes, right? That's why you look at the Chargers bringing in Mike McDaniel. Like they had a big power O-line. That's why they signed Mekhi Becton, and now he's no longer a Charger because of that very reason. He doesn't move well enough to play in a wide zone offense. So you want guys who, of course, you want them to still have power, but they have to be able to move, because if you can't move, you're not going to be able to reach defenders. You're not going to be able to climb to second levels, and you're really handicapping the potential of what the concept is designed to do.
So moving from that, because I know if correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Klint Kubiak's system is a lot of West Coast or West Coast influenced play action type passes. That's what set Sam Darnold up to go on and win a Super Bowl and stuff like that. So how does this scheme really set up quarterbacks for success in the NFL or at any level?
Yeah, I mean, you think about what these runs are designed to do. So if you're a power gap scheme, where's the run trying to go?
You're trying to go right up the middle, right? A gap.
Right. So if you're trying to run up the middle, what are the defenders going to do?
The linebackers especially, they're going to cover those middles.
Right. You're going to have guys triggering downhill. So if guys are triggering downhill, your gap power schemes are designed for your quarterbacks to take shots over the top. Now, if you're a wide zone team, as someone who coached linebackers, what are those guys going to do?
We're going to flow with the traffic most of the time, yeah.
Right. So when you have wide zone teams, you're going to get a lot of bootlegs, a lot of nakeds, a lot of rollouts, where he's going to be rolling away from the flow of the run for their passing game. So it's going to be a lot of underneath concepts, outs, corners, drags, that type of stuff. That's why the West Coast offense is considered to be more of a dink and dunk versus a vertical shot offense, because that's what the run concepts they run are designed to do. It's designed to open up the middle of the field and underneath routes, versus your gap power schemes that are designed to get defenders coming downhill so you can take shots over the top.
So basically that's telling me that, Fernando's going on those nice bootlegs and coming back across, hitting Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers is getting 2,000 yards this season and being MVP, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's fun stuff right there. I like that. I would love to see that. Actually, today was May 1st. It was the first start of the Raiders their rookie mini camp, and Fernando was out there throwing, and the aura that the guy just has out there is just, I mean, yeah, it's rookie mini camp, they don't really have defenses out there and stuff like that. Nobody's planning against him. I get it and everything, but you just can see the way he throws the ball and just everything about the whole situation is just pretty epic, especially coming from a Raiders fan perspective.
Right. And as a Raiders fan, you have to love the fact that you have a guy who's like the least swaggy guy ever. Like, you always worry about guys going to Vegas. Like, are they going to get in trouble? Are they going to get caught up? And everything that goes into being in Vegas. And I don't think he could care any less. Like, he's just there to play football. And that's what y'all need, is someone who's going to go into the casinos at 3 a.m. and pull his teammates out. A guy who's going to be going in there and throwing down 10 grand on black and letting it roll and seeing what happens.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had a quarterback like that in a long time, but
that you know of.
Exactly. I don't think Derek Carr was in there doing that.
He was afraid to go public.
Yeah, exactly. How many teams right now do you think run this zone concepts versus, these wide zones versus power in the NFL?
I mean, I think everyone does both, but I would say as a primary run, you're probably talking 3/4 of the league. Thinking about teams that are power teams, I mean, the Steelers, the Browns, and the Browns might even be a little different now that they brought in Monken, but there's very few teams now that just want to line up and bash their face into the defense, because it does limit your explosives in the run game, because it has to be blocked perfect, and that's hard to do when you have the kind of athletes that defenses have now.
All right, so onto this scenario here for you. If the other team's linebackers are lined up and are about to blitz, but you don't know that they're going to do it, they're not showing this at all, and then all of a sudden, last second, they bring it as you start to go into your block, is that better for you, better for the offensive line as far as blocking goes? Like, will they be able to pick up their assignments easier? Is it over pursuing by linebackers that kind of lets them just go right by and you don't even have to worry about it? Like, do you have to shift your blocking as offensive linemen if that does happen, like last second, let's say?
So if you're running power gap schemes, yeah, you do, because you're blocking a man. So that's where you're going to get down calls, back calls. Pressure is bad for that stuff. And that's a big reason why teams run a lot of zone as well, because zone blocking absorbs chaos, because you're blocking a space, you're not blocking a person. So if you're running wide zone left, you know that you're getting a gap over to the play side. If someone shows you, take them. So with your zone concepts, I don't want to say you invite pressure, but it leads to big plays. You see a lot of times when there's a huge run, it's because the other team blitzes. Because when that happens, now you end up in a situation where a linebacker takes himself out of a play, or he over pursues, or he tries to backdoor and gets walled off. Like, you're not concerned about, I have to get to the mic, or I need to kick an end. No, you're just getting to a space. And if someone shows you, take them. So a lot of times when you're seeing blitzers, you're getting bigger cutbacks from your tailbacks, because the guy who's typically occupying that space is now coming from somewhere else. So you're going to get more explosives off of blitzes than just a base defense. And with the exotics that these DCs can throw at you now, it makes a lot of sense to zone it, because now you're not worried about who's comboing to who and who's got to get to this guy. You're just running and hitting. That's it. Don't care what number, don't care what position. If he shows up on your lane, you knock him out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot more sense than just. So when you say, like, you're basically, as a player, you're predetermined on where you're going in these zone schemes. Like, if you're a guard, you got to block this guy, and then, like, depending on what the run play is, I got to block this dude, and I get to I was talking about the zone. I thought you had to get to a certain spot.
It's just a space.
That's what I'm saying. Right? You have to get to a certain space,
right?
Versus
but you're not
a player.
Predetermining a player, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're predetermined on a space, not a player.
Yep, correct.
Okay,
right. Well, if someone blitzes there, you take them. a D tackle stunts into your gap, you take him. Whereas
Gotcha.
if you're gap scheming it, well, I need to get a back block to the 3 tech, and all of a sudden a linebacker shows up, and you're taking that linebacker, and then who's taking the 3 tech? And you're trying to figure that stuff out on the fly. And that's why a lot of teams have kind of gone away from it the higher you go, because it's more exotic. The high school level and even the college level, where there's still some separation of talents and there's a different level of coaching. Yeah, you can gap people all day long. I mean, that's been my favorite run play as a high school offensive line coach. Is I love counter. We'll run it until the cows come home, and we'll knock people out with it. We'll run for 300 a game. But when you're playing in the NFL, where from the best team to the worst team, there's not a huge disparity of talent, that's a tough thing to do, because even the worst team is going to have some dogs. And you have to be able to game plan for it. And even then, defense causes chaos, right?
Yep.
That's always been your thing, is create chaos, because chaos is where defenses thrive. It's not about stopping an offense. It's just keeping them on the field long enough for them to make a mistake. So if you can put them in an uncomfortable situation, that's where fumbles happen, missed blocks happen. First fumbles, FLs, sacks, come from motion and chaos.
So you mentioned, and you're right about all of that, because that's exactly what I love to instill. And we used to talk about that all the time to our linebackers. And one thing I wanted to ask you too is, so you have basically high school, college, NFL, and now me and you specifically right now are going to be doing a lot of content on Canadian football, and their rules are a lot different, and I have no idea about their rules. So,
Yeah.
And a lot of our fans are not going to know that either, which is great, because we're going to be putting a lot of content out there about that. So at each level, what do you think is the best, in your opinion? What is your favorite? Like, what would you run if you were coaching each level of football per se?
I guess that depends on what I have for players. You know, just like
let's just say you have like, you're like the GM / head coach, and you get to do it all. You get to do it all. Yeah. Right now.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm a high school coach, I'm going to run more gap power schemes, because I want to be able to take vertical shots. College, probably a little more split. I like big, long, athletic offensive linemen, so that lends itself more into the zone family. But as an offensive line guy myself, like, I like to establish our dominance. I think that's important, and I think that's hard to do if you're exclusively a zone team. So that's probably more 50-50. And then in the NFL, we're zoning it. We're going to get into space. We're going to stretch things. We're going to make defenders pursue and tackle on angles. We're going to make them shed blocks at the second level, and we're going to let our special playmakers be special. Whereas I think at the lower levels, like, it's more the development of your skill players isn't obviously to the same caliber. Like, your running backs are north-south guys, you know, the vision isn't as developed, the patience isn't as there quite as much. You know, it's just be fast and run straight. And the more experience these guys get, the more coaching they get, the more adaptable they are to running more zone schemes the proper way. So I think as you go up, there's probably more integration of zone, particularly your wide zone concepts.
So when you say in college, you would run what did you say you'd run again? Splits?
Yeah, I would probably split it pretty much 50-50.
Oh, split. Okay, splitting it 50-50.
Yeah,
okay.
I want to be able to establish our dominance and set the tone. And we have to be able to take deep shots. But I think that being able to stretch the field horizontally is a huge part of it. You know, that's why I've coached in the offense that I've coached in the Brile system, because it's making you defend 53 and a third wide and 100 long. If you're going to be just purely a power team and run between the tackles, now you're inviting pressure off the edges. They can get a little more exotic with some of the DB pressures. Whereas if you're stretching the field sideline to sideline, now you can really put the defense in a a tough position of having to be more calculated with where they're bringing pressure. Because if they bring it from the wrong spot, like we said, that's where you're going to create your explosives and you're going to give up an 80-yard touchdown run. So I think you can't necessarily focus on one type versus another at the college level. Now, if I get Jeremiah Smith and I have Arch Manning throwing him the ball, then yeah, we're going to take our vertical shots. But that means I also have Jeremiah Smith from last year, and he's pretty good at running those wide zone schemes as well. So we're going to split it 50-50 down the middle.
Well, us Raider fans would love to have him, but that means, Fernando throwing to Jeremiah Smith would be epic in Vegas, but that means we'd have to be very bad this year. We don't want that either.
Yeah.
We're actually, I think we're actually at a point as a Raiders fan base, and I'm going to get a little sidetracked here about the Raiders for a minute, but I think as a Raiders fan base, I think we might be first time in forever that we're united on patience. And that's been like a real key going into this off season. Like, okay, we got the number one pick.
4.
What's that?
Until week 4.
Until preseason's over.
Right.
We're calling for everybody to be fired again. I know.
Right.
No, I really do. I think the way the team's going, we're young, full of talent. We have a GM, we have ownership group, we have an owner who's just like, I'm staying out of this. I'm going to go eat at PF Chang's and whatnot and stuff and enjoy my time. I just want the team to be better. You got Tom Brady there, you got Spytex there. These guys have been around Super Bowl organizations, have done those things. Kubiak now, the Super Bowl coach. So I think now the patience from Raider Nation, we can see a plan, whereas like the last, 15, 20 years plus, it's been a long time since we've even been winnable, back when Rich Gannon was the coach or was the quarterback. But I think we are finally a patient fan group going into this season, but we'll see how things go.
It's easy to say, it's tougher to do.
I know it is. And I don't know how much our patience will be towards Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, most of us realistic people know that Kurt needs to start as long as possible. And if we're competitive, he needs to, and even if we're losing games, he needs to start as long as possible. And it's going to suck for guys like Max Crosby, because we're probably going to end up losing him after this year, or even at trade deadline. But, if that's what the organization needs to do, that's what they need to do.
Yeah. And it's advantageous for the Raiders to have Kirk Cousins do well, because if he plays really well, now you have no pressure on Fernando. And if you want, you can just trade him. Get something for him.
Or he waits until after the season and he gets another bag from somebody else.
That's right. The best agent in the game.
Jeez, somebody call that guy.
That's what I'm saying.
So I do have we skipped over this, but I want to go back to what we were just talking about, the different levels. Do you have knowledge of the Canadian Football League as far as their blocking schemes go? Because isn't the distance between the defensive line to the offensive line a little different? Like, how does that interact?
Yeah, they'll play, a yard off the ball, but it doesn't change what you do. There's a lot of ways to window dress running the ball, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. You're going to be outside zone, inside zone, counter power. Teams are running more duo, but there's only so many different ways you can run the ball. Now you can get quarterback runs in there. You can use motions and shifts and hand the ball to a receiver or on a jet, or bring them around on an orbit and have them run a counter or an outside zone. But the end of the day, the blocking schemes, what you're trying to accomplish, are all the same. It's just different pictures to get you to the same look.
Yeah, and I think that's what, you said it best right there. Like, going back to the Raider thing, like the way there was the play in the Super Bowl, and I'll get more about the Super Bowl later in the show, but there was the play where they motioned over JSN, and then he ran that, I don't know what they called it. It was like some kind of scissor move or something like that. I don't know if you remember that, where he was wide open in the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown. It was just like an easy pass. But normally the way the concept works is they just ran it with the front two guys. This time Kubiak gave a different picture to the defense, by motioning JSN over and put him real closer to the line of scrimmage, and had him run that corner route, and he was wide open for the touchdown because nobody else knew what was going on. But the rest of the concept was the same. It's just all of a sudden they changed the picture, and the different guy was running the whole thing.
Right. You're just trying to confuse defenders. I mean, that's really all the whole concept of game planning as an offensive coach is, how can I get to the play I want from different looks? Because if I can confuse your coverage, or if I can confuse a flat player or what have you, you're getting easy completions. And if you can put together enough first downs, that's the ticket. You know, our thing has always been, you know, get the first down and then let's go fast. So if you can manufacture some easy first downs just by changing the picture a little bit, like, that's what you get paid to do. That's what game planning is. You can't just come out and your base structure and go, okay, we're going to run this play and this play and this play, and we're going to win, because that's what defenses scheme for. But if you can just change the way things are presented, now you're making guys think for a second, and that second is all the difference.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, that's huge for NFL, and I mean, any level really. So, and going back to any level, since you've been coaching as long as you have at the high school level and dealing with college coaches and stuff like that, and going back to talking about offensive linemen in the recruiting process, do these college coaches that come to you or you send out videos of your players and stuff like that to try to get them recruited, if you got a guy that wants to be recruited, does it matter to these college coaches about the scheme that they're in high school? Do they really see that? Do they see, or do they just really worry about mostly size and, you know, how much they can move and how flexible they are and so forth like that? Like, do they, I guess a real good question is do they see them like, okay, does this guy fit my system? Or does this guy like top notch 5-star recruit, we just can't pass up, and we can mold him into this kind of player because he does have the speed and ability?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the answer is probably more complicated. You know, if you're looking at the top tier programs, like, there needs to be some level of fit. You can't come from a wing T offense and then go into a scheme where you're running wide zone and you're pass blocking a considerable amount, because their guys in that offense are just run blockers. You know, we dealt with that with Albert Rees when he came from Canada. His stance was the worst thing I've ever seen, because he just went forward. He didn't know how to pass protect. He didn't understand how that worked. So college coaches are going to look for measurables, but they're going to need to see the functional movements that go into playing in their scheme. Like, you have to be able to demonstrate, whether it's in a camp, whether it's in video footage that I send them, they want to see that the skill set is at least present, even if it's not applied on Friday nights, because in today's game, they don't have years to develop a kid. So if what you're getting taught and the scheme that you're playing in is completely polar opposite from what you're going to be asked to do, they may pass on a creature because they just don't have the time to develop guys like that. And by the time that they get them ready to go, then they're probably hitting the portal anyways. So I think it is kind of a delicate balance. They're not taking some kid who plays in a carbon copy scheme who's 5'10". But at the same time, if you're 6'6" and don't have the functional movement ability demonstrated to play in what they do, they may not recruit you either, because there are still plenty of guys who fit those qualifications. Now, there's always going to be outliers to both of those scenarios, but that's why I think high school development is so important, because that's where we've gotten kids recruited, is because they're really strong fundamentally on top of having traits, even if they're not finished products. And I think that's kind of the secret sauce, is having kids who at least hit their minimum metrics for size, length, height, wingspan, speed, whatever it may be, but have the fundamental base demonstrated to show coaches that they're not as far away from being able to contribute as what maybe they would have been otherwise.
So now my last topic is going back to that Super Bowl, and I really wanted to touch on something for offensive line. I don't know how much did you end up watching the Super Bowl? Do you remember the play? I can't remember who it was. The Seahawks blitzed a corner off the edge and just nailed it. I think it was later in the game. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I think it was on the right-hand side. Guy came straight off the edge. Nobody saw him. I think it was either the slot or maybe even the safety that they brought down. He came off the edge and had a clear shot at the quarterback and took Drake May down. And it was like a huge play for the game. I think it might have led to an interception. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that, but or a fumble. But in those type of situations where you've got a guy that's coming up, walking up to the line of scrimmage, and you know that it's there, and I know it's a game, and all of us back here sitting at home on the couches, all of us couch coaches and GMs can sit here and say, watch out for that guy.
Right.
But as a tackle who has nobody on out there with you, like no tight end, no receiver, nobody over there with you, and you see that, but your assignment's this defensive end, what is the concept, or what is like predetermined? Do they have these things in place for being able to pick that guy, slide protection, that sort of thing? Does this tackle tell the guard, yo, I got to go over here and get this guy, or we need to watch out for this guy because the running back because if I remember correctly, the running back was going the other way. Like he was supposed to go that way, or maybe he messed up. I don't know the exact play call, but as a tackle on the edge, like a right tackle, let's say, and you see a guy walk up and he's like, if I don't get a hand on this guy, my quarterback's getting smoked and this game could be over. And then all of a sudden, I mean, if it was the left side, we all know T-Rex over there wasn't blocking nobody to begin with. So he ain't gonna slide and catch nobody unless he's tripping them. But so what's your opinion and thoughts on that whole scenario and like situation going, like leading either into the game or like coaching wise, play call wise? Like, is it up to the offensive linemen to check with each other? Like what normally happens in that kind of a situation, or should happen in that kind of situation, I should say?
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, if guard is uncovered and tackle sees it, if your slide is set up to go that direction, then you're just going to make an out call and let him know like, hey, I'm taking hot pressure. Otherwise, quarterback has to ID that and know he's throwing hot off of it. Or he's got to change the responsibility of the running back and let him know that I need you to stay in on this concept, and alert him that he's got to get out there and pick that guy up. So it's going to be one of those three situations. Tackle slides it, they throw hot off of it, or the back's got to stay in to pick it up. But a lot of that communication should come from the quarterback. He should see that and adjust coverage, because for all we know, they could have had slide protection going the other direction, and now you're stuck with man blocking on that side, and there's nothing you can do about it. Tackle's got to get to the end. Guard's got to get inside to whoever his responsibility is, whether it's a 1, a 0, 2-eye, whatever it may be. So that's something where the quarterback may have to adjust the protection and change the slide, or he's got to keep someone in, or he's got to have enough awareness about it to throw hot off of it. Because if that guy's blitzing, now there's a vacant space that you should be able to throw someone into it. Yeah. And those guys have the freedom to do that stuff typically.
So I know this is going to sound dumb, but we are clueless over here. So you see that and you're like, okay, I think I should block that because he's faster. I know the distance might not be the same. Like he's obviously out a little bit farther out, but he's a faster guy than this defensive end in front of me. There's a difference between running 4.7, 4.9, or whatever this defensive end is running. I know some are freaks and run a lot faster than that, or running 4.3 like this safety or corner that's coming down. Should I prioritize getting a guy outside versus my guy in front of me? No, always block the guy in front of you then.
No one wants hero plays. At the end of the day, the offensive line is taught we block our responsibilities. We block the guys in the box. We block guys in front of us unless our protection dictates otherwise. Anyone outside of that box is the quarterback's responsibility. So if he takes a shot to the chops, well, I bet you remember it next time. the end of the day, we're not leaving defensive linemen to try to bail him out, because when that tape comes on, you can bet that tackle would have got ripped from their back home about leaving his guy to try to block someone else. Because if all of a sudden you leave that end and that DB bails out into a flat coverage, now you're just standing there with your thumb up your you-know-what, looking like an idiot. Do your responsibility.
I can tell you, after all this news has come out, that tackle would not have gotten ripped all the way back home, because we all know Mike Vrabel wasn't even on the plane.
Easy.
Yeah, I had to go there. Hey, we're going to go there, huh? All right.
Yeah, it's good. And I still don't blame Will Campbell for the Super Bowl.
Neither do I. It's just the Seahawks are just too damn good.
They just had him vertical setting the whole game. Well, if you're blocking like this and this guy's coming from here, he's going to push you back into the quarterback. That's why I have all my tackles. They work 45s to their verts. So they're going to work to an angle before they get vertical to keep the width of the pocket. So even if they do encounter power and they get pushed back a little, they're not in the quarterback's lap. You watch Will Campbell in that game, he straight vertical sat and was this far away from Drake May. Well, you get any type of power, now you're in his lap. And Drake just didn't have the awareness to move up, move out, move back, move around. And
the game kind of reminded me of the Eagles versus Kansas City game in the Super Bowl, where the Eagles defense, especially the defensive line, was just way too much for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't think they even cared about the referees. Like, they were just like, we're going to tee off on him all game, and we don't care. Like, we hit him in the face. There was a couple of times where I heard from Chiefs fans all over my timeline on X, oh my God. And I'm like, dude, I'm a Raider fan. I've heard the excuses for too long about referees and bad calls. And there was the Tuck rule. I get it. That was legit. I think the one after that we had, which was insane, was the Gene Serator. I think that's how I say his last name. Gene, the referee, who's not in the NFL, but he does like the replay assist people, which shouldn't be. But he used the index card trick to determine a first down or not a first down, and it shows clearly it's not a first down. Right. And he gave the Broncos a first down, and it should have been the Raiders' ball because that was a fourth down play. But I think you have to be so good on defense, and you have to be so good mentally on offense at tricking the other team and showing the other team pictures like we were talking about, different pictures during the plays. And you have to be such a good run team too that you just don't care about the referees. You're just like, whatever, they're going to throw 15-yard penalties all game, but we're going to be jacking you up all game on defense. We're going to be flying around, getting the ball out of the air from your receivers. Every time you touch the ball or catch a ball or run a ball, we're going to hit you so hard it's going to cause turnovers and fumbles and such. And we're going to do whatever we want on offense. And if you're that type of team in the NFL, you ain't got to worry about the referees.
Right. I mean, look, that's how the Giants won their Super Bowls. It's like we have Strahan and we have Tuck, and then we're bringing in Jason Pierre-Paul, and we're just going to get after you. And that's what the Eagles did. And I think that's kind of the recipe. If you don't have a really good defensive line, your defense isn't going to be great, just because receivers now are so freaky and quarterbacks are so good that if you give a quarterback enough time, you don't got a chance. Yeah. And I mean, look at what the Chiefs have done, mediocre receivers, because at the end of the day, like, the rules are still set up in the offense's favor. And if you get a good offensive play designer and play caller like an Andy Reid, they could put you out there and they'll find a way to get you open.
Man, I get open all the time.
Yeah.
Just like I can get a tackle in the NFL.
That's right.
I get a tackle. I might get called for a penalty, like tripping or something like that, but
E. Nasty and Derrick Henry, Oklahoma drill.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, he'd kill me. But he'd go down, though. I'm definitely tripping. And have you ever seen the Ryan Clark interview where it talks about that? If we meet, and he's like, if we meet in the A gap, I'm taking you down like 100% of the times. And everybody's like, huh? Like, no, not even close. Derrick Henry's running you over.
It's always my favorite Will Campbell thing is he's like, meet me in the A gap. Meet me in the A gap.
Will Compton.
Will Compton. I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, Will Compton is the only guy that I've ever seen meet Derrick Henry and drop him in the hole.
Yeah, because he knew if he didn't, he was going to get cut.
Yep. Oh man, I love Will Compton. He's amazing. Playoff Willie, we used to call him, man. Playoff
That's right.
Willie. That's
Did
awesome.
you hear what Taylor Lewan said about Bane?
No, what do you say?
He said, "Did you see him in the draft? Like, this dude walked by, grabbed his hat, didn't look in the mirror, looked like he was on a mission." He's like, "I've never been so happy to be retired from being a tackle in the NFL." He's like,
Oh,
"'Cause
yeah.
he fuck shit up." He's like, "I'm good." The guy's a psycho.
Yeah, I think the people with the short arm, and I get it, the measurables and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
if you have a demon, you have a demon. I mean, Max Crosby nobody saw that. Nobody saw what he is today, like him becoming that.
No.
I mean, maybe John Gruden, but that's about it. Like,
even then, no. Like,
yeah, if you have the psycho ability to never want to come off the field and you just want to be the biggest shit talker in the NFL while you're playing, I mean, you get pancaked and get up and still talk to the offensive lineman like he didn't do shit. Like,
right? That's fine unless you're
you.
not the guy. Then you just get cut.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, man, some of these guys are just on another level. Is there any offensive linemen out there right now in this last draft class or the last couple that last 2 or 3 that you really like?
I really liked Alu Fashanu last year that went to the Jets. The year before would have been Joe Alt from Notre Dame, who's just a creature. I think they're both going to be really good.
Joe Alt's got one of those like health issues though, right?
Yeah.
Every time I just like missing games. Like if he could stay healthy, yeah, I could see him being a real problem in the AFC West.
Yeah. Trying to think who else. I mean, I said I'm a big fan of Benga Ioane this year. And I do think that Monroe Freeling is going to be really good. He just needs work, which the longer I'm in this, the more I realize like there's still a lot of shitty O-line coaches, even in college and in the NFL. Like there's so much buddy shit that happens that doesn't make sense. Like there's guys who can't develop anybody. I mean, we'll see. So much of offensive line development depends on where you go and what the situation looks like and what opportunities do you have and how patient are they going to be and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So just for you viewers out there, we got a show list coming out. We're going to be talking about from now until the season and well into the season. With some of our show lists, we're going to be talking about, we're going to do some division breakdowns starting May 9th. And we're going to be starting with the AFC East. Is that the one we picked?
NFC.
NFC East. Okay, yeah, I thought it was the AFC East. Yeah, that's right. Yep, gotcha. So NFC East. So we'll do some division pre-camp breakdowns, talk about some of the stuff we're looking forward to seeing for them. We got some post-camp breakdowns after that all happens. We're going to start breaking down some of the CFL preseason stuff. We've got some top player rankings by position in the NFL. We've also got some college ones as well that are going to come up. We got some mid-season team rankings. We'll probably do some preseason or after. We'll probably wait until after the preseason to do our pre-NFL season shows going into the rankings for that. And then we'll do some mid-season rankings, like I said, and then we'll do some high school. We got some specials on high school to college shows that we're going to put together with some special guests coming in from that. So as always, Coach Dan from Trench Mafia, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and leave us a comment. Till next time.